Let's get rolling.
They're gonna give you share permissions.
Yeah, I have a share button already. I don't know if you have to do anything else, but let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I got you. Boom. We're good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. I don't know if you caught the training that Cole and I did a couple of weeks ago, but it's an awesome group. Always love doing stuff for my sales peeps. What I want to accomplish today really is two things, and this is basically based on what you guys submitted in terms of questions and a little bit more, technical, high-level copy stuff that'll help you guys amplify the emotional punch of your copywriting. And also you can use, I got a bit of a checklist for you guys to reference every time you are writing a post so that you can go reference it and see that, okay, I'm putting out this post. Am I doing the right things? Did I miss anything? And then you can change things and amplify or take away things as needed. I don't know if Cole told you guys this, but we're doing a two-parter. So for today, what I want to accomplish is I want to take you guys through the fastest way to pack more emotional punch in your copy, the checklist that I just talked about, and then I want to answer everyone's questions, both the ones that were submitted and any questions that arise from today's session. I know Miles, Henry, Alok had questions, Brad as well. So I've got some good feedback for you guys. We'll go through that stuff at the end. And then next week, what I want to do is so today is more like a theoretical, philosophical thing. And then next week, we'll apply all this theory by looking at actual examples of posts that work, why they work, the psychology behind them. So you guys can start modeling that stuff for your own posts. And then as a treat, I will always do a mini bullets masterclass where essentially, I don't know if you guys write bullets for your posts right now, but I think personally that they are the most underrated conversion booster for copywriting ever right now. Those sizzling little benefit-driven bullets that get people curious to essentially get their hands on your stuff. So I've written a lot of bullets in my time. I've learned from the best. So I want to give that back and share with you guys some of the best bullet writing secrets that I know personally. And then obviously tackle some questions at the end. So that's next week. If that's cool with everybody, we can get jamming. How we feeling?
Oh yeah, man. Max has won. How many competitions have you won with the bullets?
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a copywriting community called Copy Chief. It's run by my mentor, Kevin Rogers, who I still work with today. I won 4 of those. So I'm pretty much up there with longest running winning streak, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to share all that good stuff because, dude, Cole, I know you love bullets, man. And you're just discovering how powerful they are because you can literally have a post just with bullets and people will want to get them just based on the curiosity, right?
100%. And that's one of the biggest things. I was telling Max before we hopped on here, like with my 2 steps now, that's one of the biggest things I'm doing is just bullets, like all day, over benefit, curiosity, because you're only selling the comment, right? So it's just so much easier for Facebook. You got to scroll in. It's where it's at. So
yeah, dude. All right. So if that sounds good for everybody, we can dive into today's stuff. By the way, feel free to stop and tell us if you have any questions while we're going through this. Like I said in the earlier interview that Cole and I did, I don't want to come here and just lecture for an hour and not have engagement interaction. So if you guys have any questions while I'm going through this, feel free to drop a comment and we'll address that right away. Okay, so here's the big thing. If you're writing your own copy, which I assume everybody here is, unless you hire your own copywriter, but I'm going to assume that everybody's writing their own copy. It's very easy to get lost in the technicalities of the depth of copywriting, right? Because like there's a lot to know, and you could study open loops, and you can study bullets, and you can study leads, and you can study story. But honestly, like there's not enough time in the day if you're running a business as well to know all that stuff, right? So what I want to give you guys today is, first of all, I want to alleviate the anxiety around, how much copywriting do I need to know in order to make a post happen or make an offer happen online? And then what are the things that I should focus on and I can safely forget about everything else, at least for the purposes of right now, while you're writing your own stuff, because you're going to naturally get better as you do it more, right? And that's really the first part, which is what is the fastest way for me to pack the most emotional punch in my copy? And it's really counterintuitive. It's against, the principle of I have to know all this stuff to make something compelling, but really the 80-20 principle always applies, and it applies in this case. And it's that 80% of any piece of copy success lives and dies by your opener. It's the most important thing in any piece of copy, whether it's nurture organic, whether it's a two-step, whether it's an offer, whatever it is. The first few sentences and a headline, if you have a headline, dictate 80% of that piece of copy success. And I have a bunch of principles here for you guys in order to ensure that whatever opener you do have, it'll glue those reader eyeballs right on your stuff. And this is based on, I've reviewed a lot of copy over the last few years, and those are like the biggest glaring things that are missing. A lot of them are counterintuitive, but the idea is that if you don't get that opener nice and tight and it answers those critical things that we're going to go through right now, it doesn't matter how good your writing is after the opener, you're going to lose the person, because they either, remember, this is Facebook, a lot is happening. People are scrolling, they're getting notifications, their phone is buzzing. If you don't catch them in the first 3-4 sentences, nothing you write after that will keep them, right? So the very first thing is, if you don't have a benefit or at least a statement in your headline or your opener that immediately answers the question, what's in it for me? As in me, the reader, looking at your stuff, what's in it for me to keep reading? If you don't answer that right out of the gate, they're gone. And that's really why a lot of posts die, even if they're really good posts, like content-wise and meat-wise, is that you didn't grab that initial attention and answer the question, what's in it for me? And that benefit, on top of just being a benefit, it's got to be a believable benefit. So if you have a claim in your headline or your opener, it's got to be believable. So a lot of people sometimes just claim things, but they don't have the proof that is equal to the claim, right? So if you're going to claim some crazy stuff in an opener, you better back it up right then and there, right? And we can talk about ways you can do that, but proving stuff today is more important than ever as well, because every market at this point has reached a point where they're sophisticated enough to be skeptical, right? Because it's not the first post or not the first sales call or not first person they've dealt with. So you got to prove that right out of the gate if you're making a big claim. Another big point is, in your opener, only focus on one big juicy payoff. A lot of people start stacking benefit on benefit on benefit in the headline or the opener, but you want to keep it simple and focus on just one thing, because otherwise you're adding unnecessary complexity. Another big thing in your opening statement or your headline, if you're doing a combination of both of them, is it's got to flow with current desires and problems of your market. It's the classic copywriting principle of enter the conversation going on in their head right now. And that really means there's a specific problem and a specific situation that they see themselves in right now. And that's where you start the conversation. So it's not a simple, how to fix this, but it's more like, if you're struggling with specific scenario X and you're feeling XYZ, I'm going to fix this for you right here in this post. Just stick with me. It's a very particular scenario, and you're addressing it right there because, that's what they wake up in the morning saying. If I'm talking to busy gym owners, they're not, the only thing on their mind is it's Christmas time. There's nobody in the gym and it's empty, and I got to figure out a way to fill these classes, even though it's a slow season, right? So that's how I'll enter that conversation. So it's addressing that very particular scenario with one big payoff. The other big thing is your opener must address why now, as in what is the urgency of this? And Cole, I'm sure you know this, but Oren Klaff talks about this a lot. It's like winter is coming, right? There's something happening in the market, whether it's a new event, a new phenomenon, whether your competitors are creeping up, whether customers are more savvy, whether attention is more scarce, but winter is coming. The metaphor being, are you prepared? Are you ready for what's coming? And that means that it's not just some post that we're talking about. We're talking about you getting ready for the cost of what's happening if you don't take action today, the cost of inaction. That answers the question of why should I drop everything that I'm doing right now and pay attention, right? It's because there's a cost to me not paying attention. That means you're losing something if you don't read this post. That's really what the principle of winter is coming means. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Cole, but.
Well, it makes perfect sense, right? Is there anything you could do aside from, and I actually have a few things, from the external forces, right? Like the market shifting, right? Like let's use the one everybody probably just thought of, the credit. Yeah. Right? Like that's, everybody's using that. can you do something else to elicit the why now, the cost?
Yeah, totally, man. So if there's, you can just reference the person's immediate competitive environment. Like if you know that their competition is using something, but they're not. Let's say I'm a marketing consultant or an ads consultant, and I know your like Cole's competitors are using YouTube ads, but Cole isn't. Then I'm going to show Cole that if you don't use YouTube ads, here's what's going to happen in the next 12 months if you don't hop on board, right? Like there's a danger to becoming irrelevant if you don't hop on this, right? So I will leverage what immediate competitors are doing if they're hip to this stuff that Cole isn't, so that Cole has no choice but to pay attention. That makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. Is there ways to do it too? I mean, is it, because one of the things I always hammered is not knowing not knowing how to follow up. It's basically like letting like all of these costly deals just slip right through the cracks, right? It's like
Yeah.
a bunch of water in a bucket. So is communicating loss like that, can that work?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like leaving money on the table is a big thing. If especially if I know that a competitor has a good follow-up process and he's scooping up people that I've talked to, which means that I'm directly losing people that I'm speaking with to a competitor, like that will always get people's attention, right? Because there's a big fear of loss. Obviously we don't always have the opportunity to leverage what's going on, phenomenon wise and event wise in the market, but we can keep it, as grassroots as, hey, I know something your competitors are doing. If you don't do them in the next 12 months, here's what it looks like.
For sure.
You can also be the guy who says, I see what the trend is in 2 years. Here's the cost of not jumping on this trend right now. So it becomes about a new opportunity that you should capitalize on right now, or else you will miss the train.
100%.
That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Anything in the chat? Are we good?
Brad had a question. Do we want to power through some stuff, or we want to?
Yeah, let's. We can get to questions right at the end for sure, since we'll have the bank here, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, sweet. All right. So we addressed why now. This is a big one too. So it kind of builds on top of the principle of why now, but bribe me from the start to read this whole thing. It's essentially the payoff for reading, right? And I know a lot of people like using story, but, and we'll talk about this later too, because I've seen some posts with that. Even if it's an interesting story, you still have to bribe people to read the story, right? So before you launch into the story, you have to address, why would somebody take 5, 10, 15 minutes out of their day to read the story? So again, going back to, what's in it for me? What's in it for me to read the story? Bribe me. What's the payoff of me going through this whole thing and reading your story? And it could be as simple as, hey, by the time you're done reading this, not only will you experience XYZ, but I assure you that problem XYZ will cease to exist. Just stick with me for a second. So just a promise of a payoff at the end. Another big thing that's super important in your opener in the first few sentences is establishing credibility and authority right out of the gate. Unfortunately, we live in a time online where there's a lot of philosophers. Anybody can talk big game, right? Anybody can type cool words that sound awesome, but real practitioners and real results drivers are still rare. So you want to be the expert and show off your results and show off your authority right out of the gate, and not just be a talking head like a lot of people do it online. So you want to lead with how you've helped people, real results, real experience. What skin in the game do you have? Whether you're associated with recognized and proven authorities, companies, people, organizations. If you've spoken on stage, leverage that. If you've led groups, leverage that. If you've led masterminds, leverage that. If you have publications, books, interviews, all that stuff is all about, putting you on that authority level that people respect and look to as, you're the trusted advisor. So a lot of people leave that all the way to the bottom, but by then there's no guarantee that the person is reading. So you want to lead right there up top with what's in it for me, why now, winter is coming, and then establish your authority. Why are you the person that will deliver this result that you claim to be able to do, right?
Right. So this is going to be probably right after we make the promise. Like, we've hooked them, we've made the promise of what they're going to get, what's in it for them if they consume the message. Then before we even give that, we're leading with authority, which also is salting the message, right?
100%.
It's building up the anticipation and sucking them in further to the copy.
Yeah, man, 100%. Because you know what a lot of people do is they have maybe like a really cool benefit, and they might have some proof, but it's missing that authority element, right? Which means that if somebody has a larger authority, posts are, a lot of it is a frame and status thing too, right? It's like I'm going to listen to the person with credible results and a track record than somebody who read a book and can claim things, right? So that's why this is so important. And like you said, you got to do it way earlier than most people do it.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So I know, this is a lot, and sometimes even if it's just as simple as an opener, people get stuck in writer's block and they don't know where to start. So this is a neat little tool that I personally use. And this is from the great Clayton Makepeace. If you don't know who Clayton Makepeace is, he's one of the greatest copywriters alive. At one point, I don't know if he still is, he might be one of the highest paid copywriters alive today. Worked with all the big publishers, and his training material is really good. And I was at a copywriting event a couple of years ago when he gave out this little checklist here. And essentially it's 40 headline starters, idea starters to get your creative juices flowing. So if you understand now, okay, here's what my opener should be like. Here are the principles that I should follow in my opener, but I'm kind of blocked as to what that would look like. Each one of these is essentially a quote unquote hook that you can use to start your opener. So number one, hit your wagon to breaking news. Okay, so if I read that, I start thinking, what's going on in the world today, right? And how can I apply this to my purposes while following the principles of a good opener, right? And then you could start just brainstorming it. Donald Trump just got impeached. Is that relevant to my market or not? How can I spin it? Can I still apply an opener? So it's just to get your brain going in different directions if you find yourself stuck for ideas. Like number two, call out your prospect. Cool. Let's say, they have a limiting belief and I want to call it out. Cool. So I can literally start my post calling out this limiting belief while also at the same time paying off a promise using my authority that I'm going to fix this problem. You see how all these start to tie together? Mm-hmm. And these are literally like 40 ways. Like when I'm stumped for ideas, I will look at this and I'm like, yeah, I can kind of play around with that idea. There's so many of them here. There's set a deadline, write a benchmark, expose a scandal, attack the enemy head on. If you want to take the Robin Hood pose where you're saving your market from a well-known scam or people taking advantage of them, sometimes, Cole, you take a stand against the quote unquote sales gurus, right, that are essentially pushing stuff that doesn't necessarily work or back up their claims. Then you could use that as your lead in. Be like, hey, are you sick listening to these? Are you sick and tired of listening to these sales gurus telling you to get pumped up and be in state and everything's going to be okay? Like, I think you used one of those ideas at least in one of your posts, right? So, and boom, that's your entry point. That's 40 hook ideas that you can use today, literally, to start brainstorming ideas. That sound good? Everybody's alive and well?
I love it. I love the offer sweet revenge.
Yeah, dude.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Each one of those, like if you can just look at, pick 5 of them and write them down and just like see where your brain goes. Because you can take these in all kinds of different directions. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And obviously after we're done the 2-part series, I will have this document cleaned up, looking sparkly, and you guys will have access to it. So you have it as a checklist whenever you write.
Cool.
All right. So now we've talked about, the principles, how do I know I have a good opener? We talked about ways if you're blocked creative wise from coming up with these openers. There's also different types of openers, or quote unquote leads as they call them in copy. I know, Cole, you love this book, but if you haven't picked it up, great leads, Michael Masterson, Mark Ford, John Ford, incredible book. If you're going to read a copywriting book, I think that should be it, along with Breakthrough Advertising. And you can coast by just with those two.
Yeah.
But the idea is that, okay, so how, what are the best ways to convey a lead or an opener? And this obviously depends on your market and where you're at. So for instance, an offer lead, which is basically a direct, here's what I've got for you. Here's what it does. If you want in, let's chat. This is for a warm audience who already knows you and trusts you, right? So you wouldn't say that to cold traffic who don't know who the hell you are. So if you know that people trust you, know you, and expect you to deliver the results, and they're expecting you to offer them something, you can go with a direct, here's what I've got for you. Here's what it does. Here's how to get started, right? You can also go with the classic tried and true promise lead, which is essentially your most basic and powerful, how to get benefit XYZ or solve problem XYZ, right? That could be your headline right there. And it works very good. If I was to use just one headline for the rest of my life and I had a gun to my head, it'll be a how-to headline all day. Problem solution lead. This is a great one if, let's say you have a bit of a more colder market and they need a little bit more education. We have to, address the problem, educate them a little bit, show them what the cost of not fixing the problem is, which is, I don't like the word agitate. I think cost of inaction is a little bit better. So like, what's the problem? Here's the cost of not fixing it, the cost of doing nothing basically. And then you present your unique solution. Big secret lead, you can open with, a new revolutionary thing happening in your market that you got your hands on first. And it doesn't really have to be anything like industry wide. It could be something internal in your own company, right? Maybe like you did some new training with a bunch of clients, and just for, a limited period of time for Christmas, it worked so well for this private group of clients that you want to share it for the first time to the public, right? So it'll be like this big, crazy secret thing. Hey, I just tried this with some of my private clients. You got to check this out. It's so good. Nobody's ever doing this yet. You can do a bold statement.
One I add here is I would say the main two I use are promise and secret. Secret I use all the time. Like I use that one, and then also we haven't talked about it yet, but parlaying one of those two into a story, because like these kind of they're distinct, but they're also blend together, right?
Yeah, 100%. And again, like even in the book, they talk about you creating your own hybrid leads based on, you can couch a big secret with a story, right? If you have like a great story with a big secret reveal, you can combine the two and have your own hybrid. But these are just premises for you to play around with. Bold statement lead. This works great if you have like a big bold promise, and that'll really grab eyeballs and attention. You can actually back it up. Like for example, give me a day to look at your marketing, and if you don't make at least an extra 50,000 this month, I'll pay you 20,000 just for wasting your time. Like you can lead with that, and it's going to get a lot of eyeballs because it's a ballsy promise, and people are going to be like, "Who the hell does that? Who the hell gives somebody 20,000 if they don't get results?" Right? A story lead. This is like tried and true. Obviously, we're wired for story. We're designed to absorb story, and it's the easiest way to convey information for us to digest. The majority of successful sales letters online, especially going to cold traffic, have a story lead. It doesn't have to be your own personal story. If you don't have one, you can use your client success stories. But what you want to pay attention to is that there's always three elements to a story. There's the setup, and this is kind of what most people miss when they do a story, is that why is the story important? So before you launch into the story, you got to tell the reader what they're getting out of the story. Right? It's like, you want to start right in the middle of the action and set that up. But before we do that, you got to tell them, hey, by the end of this, here's what you'll discover. Here's why this is important, right? And the most important part of any story, if you're using a story lead, is you got to have tension and conflict. Essentially, what's the drama here? After you set it up, what is the tension? What is the conflict? The age-old premise is put a man or a woman in the jungle, have beasts attack them. Will they survive? That's why we get hooked on TV shows. That's why people binge shows left, right, and center. It's because there's tension and there's conflict, and we want to see how that conflict ends. So whichever way you can inject that tension and conflict, you got to have that part, because people look to the resolution, and it's essentially the emotional climax of the story. And if you're using a client story, they're going to want to see the positive result of you taking the client through your own journey. So that's essentially the basic hero's journey arc. And again, I want to reiterate that you don't have to be like a Harry Potter level storyteller to make this work. You really just need the three elements: set it up, why they should bother reading the story, have tension and drama or a conflict or somebody overcoming something, and then resolve it in a positive way that allows the reader to future pace a better future and a better reality for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially the emotional climax.
I always think of, man, from that book, and, but, therefore.
Yeah.
Right. And the and is just setting the context that's going to justify the but.
Yeah, 100%.
It's important. So
100%. All right. How you guys feeling so far? We can pause a bit, take some questions on this section before moving on. Is this good? Is this helpful?
got some.
You guys awake?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like the principles that you're talking about. One of them that you talked about, or even Cole, like one of the trainings that you posted, the big secret, like how you had one person come into the group and ask you to post one, like when you asked for your permission, and and you talked about something that his clients worked on. It was like a Facebook ads post, and that's an example. And but it's pretty helpful. I like the lead in, like the stories. Would you do that like solely like based for cold traffic only? Or could you just mix that in with warm too?
Oh, no, you can definitely mix that in with warm, but it works a lot better than everything else for cold traffic, because even if people don't know you, they're still willing to listen to your story because we're wired to absorb it, right?
Mm. Yeah. It's one of the most successful ones is that Tale of Two Men, or what was it?
Yeah, the Tale of Two Managers, or yeah.
I wrote that puppy out by hand.
Yeah.
And
dude, it still works. I think it still runs today. And so many people have like swiped the concept for their market, and it always works.
Yeah.
Because so many people relate to being either the first guy or the second guy, right? So you always see yourself in the story, which is why it works so
well. Bless you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, that's funny. Awesome, man. Do we have any other questions so far?
Also,
do you guys have a simple way of explaining the ABT method with the storytelling? I remember reading that in a book by Mike Joyner, and I struggled to get the concept.
Yeah, you want to, I mean, I would, Max, you want to answer that? But I mean, my gut says, I think rather than ABT, you set up tension conflict resolution.
Yeah, like I tend to look at story as a lot simpler than ABT, man. I just look at it as like, how do I set this up so that people bother reading it, which usually doesn't have anything to do with the story, right? It's like, what's the bribe here to get them to read the story, the hook point, and then dive right into the tension, the conflict, who's struggling with what, whether it's you or somebody else that you're telling the story of, take them to the dramatic point, and then what's the resolution? What's the outcome? So it's a lot simpler to think of it this way. Does that help?
Makes sense. Thanks.
You got it. We got a couple of questions up top, Cole. Do you want to hit those now, or should I move on?
Let's hit. I think Brad asked a question about. You talking about it in the chat?
Yeah. So just specific to like charitable stuff, I'm wondering how to optimize that. So what are some ways I can crush it to drive charity donations with copy? I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that not many people will ever donate, but I'd love to optimize and help as many people as I can. I just wrote a post today, no idea how successful it'd be. So like, I've raised a couple grand here and there with Facebook posts, but I'd love to just have a formula that's consistent, because it's hard to sell the benefit of charity except for save money on taxes, but that even feels heavy handed because people actually will donate, know that already,
Yeah. So here's the big thing with fundraising, man. Showing them that they'll get tax benefits is great, but you want to go a level deeper. People want to see how their money will affect, at a granular level, the person receiving it. Because, this is like open truth now. A lot of charitable organizations keep most of the money. It doesn't even get to the people who need it the most on the ground, right? So you need to tell the story of how this money that I'm donating, no matter how small, will get to the person who needs it the most on the ground, whether it's a first responder or a person trapped in a hurricane or a person in a tsunami situation, whatever it is. I need to be able to see that my 20, 30, 40, 50, $100, whatever it is, will actually get to that person. And you are the guardian angel who will ensure that this money gets to that person. It's not like a charitable money grab where, there's been a lot of big scandals with charity organizations lately where a lot of their CEOs get busted. Keeping a lot of the money, and it doesn't actually get to the people who need it the most, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. I think I'm doing that to some extent, but you just never know because I'm never like I don't have my own charity. I'm always raising for others, so I just never know at the end of the day where it all ends up and how much is actually raised as a result of what I do. It's all very murky, I've found.
Yeah. So you might actually have to do a little bit of more digging just for your own purposes, and then share that story with other people. You can be like the truth teller, right? It's like, hey, I actually took the time to see where this money goes, and here's what I've discovered.
Yeah, I do that with like the ones I'm on the board of and stuff, but
Yeah.
aside from that, like I can't be doing that in every charity I talk about,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Can we review one of my organic posts later? Can we get a post breakdown from a post that you've had elements? Yeah. So the breakdown stuff, man, we're going to do that actually in part 2 next week. We're going to review a bunch of posts and do breakdowns. And yeah, sure. If we have some time in the end, you can, if you have a post ready for us to look at, we can do that, man. As long as Cole's cool with it, we got some time.
I'm cool with whatever, man. I cleared my calendar. We're doing those few people who submitted their questions or their posts. Are we doing those this call or next call?
Yeah, we're doing those today.
Okay, solid.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are we getting access to the stock? Yep, 100%. Next week after part 2, because I'm still working on part 2. I'll have this cleaned up and looking pretty good for you guys, and you guys can have it.
Solid. Cool. Let's keep going.
All righty. So now that we talked about, the openers, types of leads, what should be in a good opener, how to increase the emotional punch of your openers, which is really the 80-20 of any post when it comes to copywriting online. Let's talk a little bit more about, the technical side of writing as a craft, and how you can grab whatever post you have and run it through this almost like a checklist, so that you're sure that whatever you're putting out there is most effective for conversion purposes. If you're actually interested in this stuff and you want to dive deeper, those are like the Bibles on this. There's a book by William Zinsser called On Writing Well. If you're going to buy any book on writing, just like technical writing, what's good writing look like and how does it feel and look to the audience and the reader, that's the book. It's called On Writing Well by William Zinsser. I love this book personally, Stephen King on Writing. Obviously, Stephen King is one of the greatest living writers today, but this is more of a philosophical breakdown of like the practice of writing. This is all about his writing process, how he, gets himself in state to write, what his creative process looks like. And, it touches on his accident, before and after his accident, and all the stuff that he went through while writing all his books. It's pretty cool. And then last thing is Roy Peter Clark's Writing Tools. This is also a great checklist if you just want to get good at just writing really good, clean sentences, because he has this list of 50 writing tools, and you can literally just pick one a day and try to apply to your posts, and it's going to take your writing game to the next level. So those are, if you're going to buy any writing books, those are the ones that I recommend. And if you're just going to do one of them, which is cool too, do William Zinsser's On Writing Well. That's like the Bible. It's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so here are the principles. And
Max, real quick, sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was, like, you were before, like the first books that you mentioned, Breakthrough Advertising, obviously, and which was the other one? Like what was the other one that you brought up? Like
earlier?
Great leads.
Yeah.
Great Leads by Mark Ford and John Ford, or under Michael Masterson. I don't know if
That's been the most. That book was a game changer for me. Like that
Yeah,
was
it's called
the most
Great Leads from who?
writing copy.
it's Mark Ford.
Mark Ford. Awesome. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Okay, so number one.
Wait, sorry. Great Leads is Mark Ford?
Yeah. Well, it's under his pen name, Michael Masterson.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Jason Ford?
Yeah. So John Ford is his brother.
It's John Ford.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at it on Amazon trying to buy it right now.
Yeah. And Michael Masterson is the pen name that he used for his books.
Yeah. Anything by him too, by the way, is like extremely good. But
Yeah.
that one's probably the best one I've written. That one in Ready, Fire, Aim is really good too. But for copy purposes, Great Leads.
Yeah. He's he co-founded AWAI and a bunch of the Agora companies. So he's one of the greater sources for this stuff. All right, getting back on track. So number one, I know this might sound straightforward and simple, but a lot of people don't apply it. Clarity and simplicity. You can never go wrong by being clear, certain, and simple. So many posts I read, I don't even understand what the person is trying to say, right? And that's a big problem, because if your reader doesn't understand what you're saying, they're never going to buy anything because they're confused, right? Easy to follow and understand is the most basic, most powerful principle you can apply. There's got to be a clear linear flow from point A to point B when you're making your points. You know, in copywriting, they call it a greased slide. So picture like, you know, a slide in a water park, or if you put, you know, oil on a slide, you zoom through, right? You're not stopping to think about what's being said. So don't use like complicated metaphors. Don't get too clever with the language and the imagery, or try to be too funny if that's not natural for you. Because that's going to do is it's going to stop the reader in their tracks, and they're going to start to think about what you're trying to say, and they're just going to get confused. And if they're confused, they're not going to keep reading. It's just the reality of it, right? So copywriting is not about showing off your writing and how awesome you are. It's about solving the other person's problem. That's what I always say. And if you have this urge to write and you want to show off, then keep that for your like personal stuff. Maybe write a novel or your own book. If you have like a strong voice that needs to come out, use that for your own purpose. But when it comes to copy and you're solving a problem, make it all about the person, which means sometimes taking yourself almost out of the equation and shining the spotlight on the other person, right? Short paragraphs and simple sentences. Again, I want to, you know, drill this home because it's so important. Pithy writing comes off powerful. And Roy Peter Clark has a great quote about it. And he says, short writing rings true like gospel, right? So like, we're just wired to take this in, because if somebody is so certain where they don't even have to speak much to drive a point home, people just on a subconscious level start to believe it, right? Notice like great leaders they don't talk a lot to back up their points. They just assume certainty. They assume that people are going to believe what they're saying. And the way you convey that in writing is just short, powerful, brief writing, which means that you're sure of what you're saying, you're confident in your solution. And that's what the reader wants to see. Whether they want to admit to it or not on a subconscious level, this is how it works. You know, the easiest way to do that is look at your ideas and how you're presenting them, and see if you have too much in one sentence. You know, if you're constantly saying like this, and that, and this. It's always like a run-on sentence with a bunch of different ideas mashed up together. You want to cut that. You want to have like 7, 8, 9 words per sentence. Stop that sentence, start a new one. Right? Keep it nice, compact, short, 1 or 2 ideas maximum. I don't know if Cole, you do this, or anybody else on the call does this, but I always read anything that I put out aloud, even if there's people around and makes me look like a crazy person. I don't care. I think it's one of the easiest ways to figure out whether anything is clunky or doesn't flow well. Because what happens when you read it out loud is if you stutter or you run out of breath reading something, it means that either the sentence is poorly constructed, or it's just, you know, the whole idea is clunky and you got to rework it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you read your stuff out loud, man, but
yeah,
I always do.
Especially if it has any, like sometimes with organic, man, I'd rather get it out there than
Yeah.
But most even times with the organic, I'll read it out loud. And what's funny is when you read it out loud, the best part about that is then actually what you should say, like is super obvious. Like you'll start reading it out loud, and then you'll be like, oh frick, this like sentence needs to be this instead, because it's like gonna come off more conversational, which is why I just try to make mine as conversational as possible, you know?
100%, man. Yep. Another thing is, you know, be a real human being, not a marketing bot, always talking about your offer. You know, this is a big thing, especially today. It's like if you just go down Facebook and see, you know, who's getting engagement of business, it's usually people who are, you know, using the little unique things about them, their ideas, their styles, their philosophies, and, you know, the things that make them unique, the things that make you, they're in the copy as well, right? So instead of always talking about the offer, they're bringing their real life, their personality, their philosophy, their belief, what they stand for into the copy as well, right? So it's not just always about, hey, here's what I've got. Are you interested? Here's the benefit. Let's go, right? It's also like, note it, like if I read a post by Cole without having Cole's name on it, I will know that Cole wrote this, because it's his distinct philosophy, personality, style, and voice. But also he's always got that little, you know, choo-choo train at the bottom. Like that's a symbol, you know, that makes Cole, right? So like, what are the things that make you that you can infuse into the post, obviously without going overboard and losing the, you know, entire point of the sales message, right? Another thing is verbs over nouns. This is huge too, and it works on a subconscious level. You know, make people do stuff in your writing. What I mean by that is turn passive stuff into active stuff. So don't have abstract concepts and nouns. Have people taking action in your posts. So for example, instead of saying, you know, the stadium was filled with fans, you want to say fans fill the stadium, which makes it sound like the stuff is happening right now in the present moment. It's active and it's in the present tense and it's happening around me right now and I can picture it. You know, instead of saying the sale was closed by Cole, I would say Cole closes the sale. It's as if Cole is doing it right now in front of me in the present moment. It's a lot more active and a lot more powerful. That raises the energy of the copy. Great tool to, and this is automated, so it does it for you, which is pretty cool. It's called Hemingway app. If you've never used it, you can literally type up your copy, throw it in the Hemingway, and it'll tell you where you're using passive verbs, where you're using complicated sentences, where you're using bigger words than smaller words, where your stuff sounds clunky. God bless technology like that. It does the heavy lifting for you. So whenever you want to do your editing work, you can just throw it into Hemingway and it'll do that for you.
Nice.
Another thing is, and I think this is the biggest thing that we can all improve on, is sometimes we use these blanket statements when in reality you can go deeper and actually dig into the small detail in the image behind the statement. And then when you create that image, you know, the brain naturally releases a lot more dopamine and people are enjoying your posts a lot more. So for an example, instead of saying, you know, my uncle's old car, you would say my uncle's beat up 1972 Chevy Chevelle with a clogged carburetor. Right? Like that's a completely different image. And I can imagine this exact car right in front of me as opposed to some old car, right? It's the old principle of, you know, if you go to a friend's house, you got to remember the name of the dog. That's like, you know, it's the attention to detail. Instead of saying, you know, if you're a fitness coach or a weight loss coach and you say, you know, I helped my client lose 25 pounds this month, you can say, you know, my client rocked her favorite black dress she wasn't able to wear in years, and the party guests showered her with compliments. Some old friends of hers didn't even recognize her and mistakenly thought she was some local celebrity. You know, instead of, I just helped my client lose 25 pounds. Now I picture this character in this amazing moment where she's getting all the love and adoration in the world, which is, you know, the purpose of the entire weight loss journey, as opposed to saying, yeah, I just helped my client lose 25 pounds. It's just so much more emotional punch when you.
And dude, this is the biggest thing that I literally had it written down. I was going to ask you a question about this.
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing I'm trying to work on with my stuff is like, and what would be your advice on, especially the visual imagery, to where like, I want to create it to where I can put a finger on it, right? I can touch it. So yeah. What would be your biggest advice for doing that?
Yeah. So so the way I do it is I would write anything out as dirty as possible, like a dirty first draft. I wouldn't worry about images, right? So get the main message out, because if you start worrying about this stuff while you're trying to convey the clarity of the message, you're going to lose the focus of the whole thing, right? So write out the basics of the message and then go line by line. And let's say, you know, you have a statement about, you know, I talked to this person last week. So what was peculiar about this person? You know, were they wearing something surprising? Did they talk a certain way? Are there certain peculiarities that I can mention about this person? But only after I've written my post will I go back and see, okay, is there an image here that I can unpack? Can I imagine something, right? That'll get them a little bit more excited. Is there a benefit that I can unpack using an image instead of just a blanket statement? Like, you'll be more confident. Okay, let's unpack that. If this were a movie and this person was the action person in the movie, what would they be doing if they were more confident, right? That's how I would think about it. Does that help at all?
That makes perfect sense, dude. So, and that's the big thing. It's like, that's going to come from your editing, not your first draft.
100% editing, man. Yeah. The first draft is, what am I trying to say? Who am I trying to say it to? Why is this important? What's in it for the other person? That's what I have to nail in the first draft. I don't care about jokes. I don't care about images. I don't care about, if you're trying to write and convey clarity, you're never going to do it, right? So be clear first, throw it into an editor, sit back, and then be like, okay, how can I make this more fun now? How can I play around with it?
Nice. Love it.
All righty. This is a cool one. And this is called the CUB principle, CUB, and it stands for confusing, unbelievable, boring. You can either do this yourself for your own copy, or I advise you get a trusted partner or a second pair of eyes to do this with you. And the idea is that you'll grab every line of copy in your post, especially for like offers and 2-steps, if response and engagement is important, and have somebody essentially go through every line and say, okay, is this confusing? Is this unbelievable? Or is this boring? If it's boring, delete it, get rid of it, unless you're certain you can, put a more fun and engaging twist to it. If it's unbelievable, can you back up the claim right there with proof, right there in the second line, right afterwards? If not, either find a way to reframe it or find another claim that you can actually back up, or delete it. Deleting and getting rid of stuff is the best thing in the world when it comes to copy, because you don't risk anything if you delete stuff. You just make things more clear. And I know it's hard sometimes because we fall in love with our own writing and the things that we do, but for clarity's sake, it's the best thing to do. And lastly, if something is confusing, usually the best way to do is just either, if you can reframe it as a metaphor that's simple to understand, or you can use simpler language, do it. If not, again, delete it. So you go through each one: confusing, unbelievable, boring. And like I said, for us to do it to ourselves is kind of hard because sometimes we get emotionally attached to our own stuff. So the best way is get somebody who's not as emotionally attached to your stuff as you are to do this for you, so it can be completely objective. Does that one make sense?
Makes sense. And then also, like, it's something you can do. It's a lot easier on the next day. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, what was that? Like, it just, who wrote that crap?
Yeah.
And then it's like so easy to rewrite it and go through and switch stuff around and bring this thing down here to the top and all that stuff.
Totally. Yeah. And then, last couple of things. So this is a really neat trick. So I always do this too. So as I'm writing, I am anticipating what the reader will be reacting as I'm writing it. And especially when it comes to skepticism. So like I picture like the angriest half-drunk uncle from New Jersey reading my stuff and just calling bullshit on everything, right? And if you can do that and anticipate it, you can actually enter that dialogue right there. So if you put a claim or something that sounds a little bit unbelievable, right there on the next line, you can go, sound unbelievable, I know. I thought so too in the beginning until blah, blah, blah. Or, you're likely thinking this sounds too good to be true, right? Well, I thought so too until blah, blah, blah. You're probably thinking, yeah, I've heard that before. So you're entering the skepticism right there as they're having it, which, you do this multiple times in a post and it's almost like, damn, this person's reading my mind. How are they doing this? Because like you're pretending to be them almost. And whenever you throw something big or a big claim and enter the skepticism along with them, you can guide them through that skepticism because you say, hey, I thought it was too good to be true as well before until I actually dove into it and discovered how it actually works. Okay. All right. That was it for writing principles. Bit of a checklist for you guys. Was this helpful? Is this good?
It was super helpful to me, man. Like, that's something to where I wanted to have a checklist to go through to be like, is this clear? Does it do the one idea? That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Because we fall in love with our writing and we want to freaking add all these different ideas in there. And it's like, dude, you got to talk about it's one point, one lesson, right? One takeaway, one page. So
100%. Okay. So if you guys don't have any questions on this particular section, we can hit those questions that you guys submitted on the document. How you guys feeling about that?
Cool. I think we got a Lokes question up first, and then we'll hit everybody else.
All right, sweet. Do you want to, is a Luke on? Because we can bring people on, man. We can jam together.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, he's on. What's up, man? How are you?
Great, man. Thanks so much for this.
You got it. All right, so you had 2 questions, and the first one was, what are the best hooks structures for organic Facebook posts? And your second question was how to make copy, how to create emotional draw, persuasion, and copy, right? So we kind of, basically the first part of the training, I hope addressed this for you. Did it? if not, we can talk deeper about this, man.
Yeah, no, that, and particularly on that like list of 40 hooks, like I kind of need, most likely I'll have to dig in and figure out actually what those mean a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. Like I've known my openers are just not strong enough. Like, you know, it's like it's being aware of the problem and then being like, okay, you know, awareness is in the bag here.
Yeah.
Time to improve. And I really appreciate what you were saying about the story, where you kind of got to give the sort of the value, like this is why you're going to read this whole thing.
Yeah.
I've got a ton of stories. I don't really know how to position them well. Like, so anyway, yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay. So what are best hook structure for organic Facebook posts? This is a great question. So the way I look at, you know, the category of posts is there's 3 of them, right? There's value/nurture, there's the 2-step, and then there's the offer. That if you're doing those 3, then you know you're pretty well off. So here's what I found to be like the sweet spot. And again, this is not just the only formula that works, because you never want to just do the same thing over and over again, because you become a one-trick pony, right? So you want to always mix it up. So always experiment with short copy, long copy, story, juxtapositions. Don't just do the one thing that you know worked one time, right? But for value and nurture, I found the sweet spot to be on the shorter side, so like 300, 350 words, an image with a video, and either image or video rather. And then the first 2-3 sentences, like we talked about earlier, you know, what's in it for me? Why should I bother now? A benefit-driven lead with a concrete payoff right out of the gate. The whole post, the theme of the post revolves around a specific problem or situation and one specific solution. And here's the really important part that a lot of people miss in value and nurture, is that there's a framework or a formula or a belief shift or a new aha moment or a new way of thinking that they can use today after reading your post. It's not just stating the obvious. It's actually, you have your own framework, your own formula, or a belief shift that you're educating them on. They have to leave the post thinking, okay, I never thought of it this way. This is interesting, right? Or at least I've never seen this framework before. I'm going to go try it, right?
Can you give an example? Do you have like a one off your head that?
Yeah. So like, I did a post a few weeks ago where I was showing people how to turn a difficult prospect into a loyal buyer with just one email. And I had a framework that is the Triple E framework: empathize, equate, elude. And nobody has that framework. And if you read Triple E, empathize, equate, elude, like, oh shit, okay, how does that work? And I actually did a breakdown of that entire email while working in those frameworks. So I showed where I equated, where I eluded, and where I empathized with the prospect. So that's all my stuff too. It's all proprietary. It's not like, hey, here's how you close a difficult prospect using everything that you've seen in a sales book before. I actually took the time to create my own framework, which is how essentially you create that intellectual property that makes you unique and stand out. Notice everything that Cole does, 3x5 note card, right?
Yeah.
3RR framework, the pre-pitch. These are all things that you're not going to pick up from a blog post about sales, right? This is his own stuff. So start thinking about how you can have your own, unique formulas and belief shifts within your value posts.
What was your opening sentence on that framework? Do you remember?
So if you're struggling closing clients who are difficult or seem to always have tried stuff before and it never worked for them, I'm going to fix this problem for you right here in this post. Just stick with me.
Got it. Okay.
So if they're talking to people who are, I've tried this before, or they come off as a know-it-all, then they know we're talking about this particular situation now. And I promise that I'm going to fix it for them right here in this post, especially if the medium is email, because that's what I specialize in, right?
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One thing I want to add here too, Max, is that one of the things that I used to do that used to help me before I really got a good hang of this stuff was I literally almost started every post. The first or the second line was if then. If you're experiencing this, then read this through. If you're experiencing this, then I want to tell you a story about how I fixed this, blah, 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 right?
Yeah,
the if then is a good promise statement.
Yeah.
Like you have your hook and then your promise, and you can even lead with the if then, right?
100%. In fact, it's like, if you notice every big sales letter that made a lot of money, it's usually an if then opener.
Really?
Before the story. Yeah. Like read go to swipe.co if you want to nerd out on some sales letters, and you'll notice every big sale, like John Carlton's One-Legged Golfer, it was an if-then opener. Right? So if you're looking to add XYZ, yards to your swing or your putt or whatever, by the end of this letter, you're going to discover how to XYZ before he even talks about meeting the one-legged golfer and how this guy used to swing with one leg. So if-then is pretty powerful.
Okay.
And last thing for value nurture is you want to kind of game the algorithm a little bit, because if the post, no matter how good it is, doesn't get early love from the algorithm, then it's going to be very hard to pop up on people's feeds. And this is just based on data collected by several agencies that deal with Facebook. Best time to post is between 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. And you want to get that, early couple of buttons of loves and hearts and maybe even a couple of comments just to get it a boost. Because if it just sits there and nobody sees it, nobody comments on it, reacts to it, then the algorithm is going to bury it. It's just the way it works today. They want to push the content that's getting reactions in the first 15, 20 minutes.
Right. That's huge, man. What do you think about what I've been doing is after I pay off the lesson, I ask a question.
Yeah.
I either and this is key. I either do two things at the end. I leave with an inspirational phrase.
Yeah.
Or that last sentence makes you want to like them because you read it and then you scroll. Yeah. Right? So I want to read it and they're inspired. And it's one of those things when you're inspired by that shit, you like it, right? Or you comment. Or I ask a question. Do you think I do that because of the engagement? Because I don't care about engagement. I care about reach, right? But
100%. Yeah.
That dictates reach. So do you think that's a good idea?
Oh, 100%. And then one other thing you can do is if you actually want people's, reflection or opinion, you would, I know you do this sometimes too. It's what do you think about this? Mine is in the first comments. You can actually have a thread of your own comments going before people start joining in, just to push it up the feed. Obviously you don't want to overdo it because it'll look obvious as to what you're doing, but a couple of comments of your own, after you allude to it in the beginning of the post saying, hey, mine is in the comments. That'll give it a push too.
100%. Yep.
All right. 2 steps, basically just a quick framework. So there's, Cole's gotten really amazing at them. So you guys have a fantastic resource. So, short and punchy. I call it the minimalist 2-step. Cole even did one for our notes from the previous interview. Start with a crystal clear benefit, a specific problem right there in the opening sentence. Again, can't stress this enough. What's in it for me? Why now? Why you? Immediate authority establishment, and then bullets. Here's what you're going to get from this thing. It's you can have an amazing, and next week I'll show you guys several examples of how simple these can be. If you have really good bullets and just you nail that opening of establishing why now, why should I bother with this? What's the big benefit for me? What's in it for me? And why you? Why should I listen to you? And then you put some bullets as to what you're going to get and the call to action. And it works amazing. Doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
If your offer is a little bit more, maybe, the market's a little bit more resistant. Maybe it's a new concept. Maybe there's more education that you have to do before you give something away. You can use a longer and more educational 2-step. So the same opening principles, but then you want to do some belief shifting within the 2-step, which means there's an educational component, right? So you educate them on why the old belief is keeping them stuck, which essentially answers the question, why am I really stuck, or who's really to blame? If you can be the person who explains why they're really stuck because they're stuck in old thinking and believing old things that don't serve them, they're going to trust you. Then you prime the new belief, and you want to explain why this new belief works. So it's not only just hey, you should think this instead of this. It's let me tell you why this works. Let me show you from my experience and my skin in the game why this actually works. And then you present your unique mechanism as the solution. So don't just have a run-of-the-mill solution. You really want to drill down, whether it's an RRR solution or a 3x5 note card, whatever it is that you're giving away, it's got to be a unique mechanism. Cole and I talked a lot about unique mechanisms in our previous interview. If you didn't grab the notes, definitely go in there. There's a lot of cool stuff for you to start playing around with mechanisms. And then again, benefit bullets after that. Here's what you're going to get. These will really do the heavy lifting when it comes to raising curiosity and desire. And next week in part 2, I'll actually, dive deep into the process of how to come up with awesome bullets, even if, the content is kind of flat, but there's always a way to spin it so your bullets come off sexy.
For sure.
And,
One thing I want to add there is like if you guys look at, I include it in the training. If you guys look at the pre-pitch one, I literally followed this longer, more educational one because I had to explain kind of why. Like nobody really thinks that the transitional phase of the call is that important.
Yeah.
So I had to basically, I forget how I started it off, but I think it was basically if then, right? And then I had this, so I started with the promise, a little bit of education of why that's important and why, like, what's going to happen if, like, what they're losing by not knowing that. And then I created a new method called the pre-pitch, bullet, 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 if then, right? So it's literally this framework exactly.
Yeah. And then the last thing is offer. You know, I like simplicity when presenting an offer. So if you can spin it as opening it with a big announcement or a big benefit reveal, that's how you would start an offer. Like, here's what you're going to get. And it's, you know, it's unlike anything you've ever heard of before by following our opening principles. Again, what's in it for me, the reader? Why now? The principle of winter is coming. What's the cost of an action? Why choose you? Because you're the trusted authority. So demonstrate your expertise and you have skin in the game and you have proven results. And then, you know, here's the deal. Here are the big benefits with bullets. You add legitimate scarcity conditions and a call to action. Like, that's the easiest way to put together an offer. You can overcomplicate this stuff and add story leads and all that stuff, but honestly, simple is always best. If you have a straightforward offer and you want to make it, just start with the benefit-driven headline opener, follow the opening principles that we talked about, and then explain what they're going to get. Add some benefit bullets to raise the curiosity, have legitimate scarcity, and then a call to action.
What would your an example of a big announcement, big benefit reveal sound like to you?
So like, if let's say you've made a brand new course or brand new training, right? And you've proven it that it works because your private clients have gone through it, right? So you would say, I would either start with a how-to, and then the how-to big benefit or how to solve XYZ problem. And then the next line right after that, I'd be like, this is what my private clients have gone through last week. And this is what the results look like. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, if you want to add even more authority to demonstrate that this is legit, you can highlight what you've been doing for the last 2 years in order to create this course. Mm-hmm. Whether you've published, expert material, whether you've been around the world speaking on stages, sharing this stuff, and this, the first time you're releasing it to the public, there's got to be some buzz and hype around why we're releasing this stuff today, as opposed to, hey, there's a course for you to buy.
Yeah.
There's a million of those, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I think that addresses your first question in terms of frameworks and the structure, right? Are you good there, my man?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Before we move on to the next question, Larissa's got a quick question.
Yeah, so I have a question because you mentioned offers, and I kind of saw that you, for example, Cole, if we take you as an example, before you dropped your post in terms of what you're offering, you kind of like, give a heads up whenever you were doing it live, like, hey, I have a big announcement coming out. So it's kind of like a pre-launch type of thing that I saw you do. Do you guys have like certain specific ways of doing that, or like a framework that you follow before making this big announcement?
Max, I'm interested in what you got to say, because to be honest, I just winged it. Like, I just was like, I need to basically create anticipation. So I told a story and created an open loop. And then I had a few other like punchy posts about a big announcement coming up. And then I dropped it. Right. So, that was about it, so do you have any ideas, Max, on how to, because I'm kind of looking into this as well, how to create I have some ideas for my next launch, but how to create anticipation and urgency up to like an offer, a direct lead?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. So the way you did it earlier, the story is a great one, but what you want to do is you don't want to pay off all the curiosity within that first story. So you want to have it drag on almost like a series, right? So you would start with the story and why we're talking about all this stuff. And then at the end, you'd be like, instead of having, the emotional climax be the final result, you would say, and, you know, in order for you to get XYZ, which is the promise that you're paying off, check out what I've got coming up, you know, next week or whatever. I'm in the lab working on some cool stuff, and it's, you know, you hype that up. And I like to do that with bullets. So again, curiosity bullets. Like you can even have like a shorter non-story version where you're like, hey, I just put the finishing touches on XYZ. I've been working on this for, you know, XYZ amount of time. I've put some of my private clients through it. Here are some of the awesome results. I'll have more about it next week, but here's a little taste of what that could look like for you when you get your hands on it. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, bullet 4. Stay tuned. You know, bullets are an amazing way to do the heavy lifting of curiosity, at least for me personally. I know, you know, Cole, you love them too, but I don't know if that helps, but there's many ways to do it. There's not one formula. Story's great, but don't finish the loop with a story. Keep it open and make it like a series. Or you can just be more direct and say, hey, I've been working on this thing. Lots of cool stuff coming down the pipe. Here's why we're doing this. Here's a bunch of bullets that pay off the curiosity.
Larissa is asking, what's bullets, right? So that's
all right. Yeah. We'll talk about bullets next week in a lot more detail. But basically, bullets are little, like, I don't know if you see them in a lot of offer posts, but they're little curiosity-based statements or sentences that when you read them, you want to find out more about what's being offered just because of that little check mark and a couple of sentences next to it. So if I'm trying to hype up an interview, for instance, I would have our 5 talking points and I would build curiosity around them by having just a couple of sentences. And the technique is called making them blind. Like, like we have the 41-39-20 framework for packaging a winning offer. Like, what is the 41-39-20 framework? I need to know what the hell that is just to scratch the itch, right? So that's what a bullet is. It really is just like, it's like a mini headline, but it's blind, and the whole reason behind it is to create curiosity.
Yeah. I always do like the key to blank, or the keys behind blank, the secret behind blank, how to is another good one. Also, quickest and easiest way to blank.
Yep. There's some good ones that are like question based, you know. Are you still doing XYZ wrong thing? Here's why this is killing your sales and what to do instead.
Dude, that's so good.
Yeah. Oh my God. We'll talk about this in detail next week.
Dude, I can't wait, man.
Yeah. Does that help, Larissa?
Thanks, Max.
You got it. All right. Is Henry on? Can we bring him on, Cole?
Yeah, I'm here.
He's here.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good.
All right, let's pull up your stuff, my man. Okay,
Henry,
so
Henry wants you to be brutal and just
I know that was the opener. I'm like, be brutal.
Choke him out. Sweep the leg.
All right, let's hear from you first, man. What are you feeling right now? What's been the feedback, and we'll take it from there.
Well, my organic is not, like, on my personal profile is not that effective. Like, I'll probably get 2-3 likes and maybe 1 lead a week from doing that. I'm actually finding that doing stories is getting me more leads than my actual profile. With that said, though, my paid ads do really well, and that's because I spend a lot of time on the copy. Like, I know with a pretty high degree of certainty when I write up an ad and put a budget behind it, it's going to, like, hit my KPIs. But when it comes to the organic stuff, like, I think the way I'm approaching it is not in the same way, because you've got to do, like, it's more about top of mind, right? That's my thinking, but I could be wrong. So.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, so your market is gym owners, right?
Yep.
Do you have a lot of gym owners on your friends list?
Yeah, decent amount.
So, like, roughly how many would you say? 500? Less? More?
Probably more.
Okay. So it's probably not a volume of gym owners problem, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So since that's not the case, let's dig into the content. So the biggest thing for you, man, is that all your posts, at least the ones that you showed in the document, all lack novelty. So there was no unique mechanisms anywhere to be found in all your stuff. But aside from novelty, and we'll talk more about that, is that none of them had like a concrete, credible promise or a result around a specific situation that I could wrap my head around. So like when you say stuff like non-intuitive hack to get more responses from ads, like that, like my first instinct was this is boring and it lacks concreteness, and I have no idea what that really means. Like what is more responses from ads, you know? So what's unique about it? How many more responses exactly are we talking about? How quickly can I get them? How much more revenue does that mean really for my gym this month? So I even bother looking at this stuff. How will this set me apart from the competing gyms in my area? So again, like the rules of the openers that we talked about today, that's really the big missing piece for you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So making sure that in the headline, there's a very concrete benefit that they're going to get by reading it.
Yeah. So the concrete benefit
is the headline I've got is pretty vague.
Yeah, it's pretty vague. And then, so that's one part of it. And then the novelty. So like 1-page flowchart showing how to create offers that aren't a challenge. So 1-page flowchart is just, it's a boring mechanism. Like nobody wants to wake up in the morning and say, I wish I could get my hands on a flowchart today, right? Like the word flowchart itself is very boring. It's like the word spreadsheet. Like nobody cares about a spreadsheet. Nobody cares about a flowchart, right? So you got to start playing around with more interesting mechanisms, and then tie those mechanisms with, you know, a more concrete benefit that as a gym owner, I can actually feel almost, you know, I can imagine, you know, if you promise me, instead of saying I'll get you more responses from your ads, you know, I promise you 7 more people will sign up before Christmas. Like that's a much more concrete promise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than just like, hey, get more ads. Or, you know, and you also have to start playing around with the winter is coming principle. So like if you know you're going to work with a gym and they have competitors that are doing stuff that they're not doing, how can you raise the stakes for this would-be client of yours by making them aware of stuff that their competitors are doing that they're not? And if they don't do and catch up with the competitors, they're not going to be in business next year. And you can accomplish that all in your first 4 or 5 statements. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
My last point was, you know, create offers that aren't a challenge. Again, that goes back to the 1-page flowchart. So that's, again, it's not a big benefit. How can you essentially create, nobody wants to create another offer or another challenge or an offer that's not a challenge. That's not what it's about, right? Like they wake up in the morning saying, how am I going to fill up my gym? How am I going to get new members through the doors? How do I price this stuff, right? So you got to link this mechanism to a concrete benefit and get them really paying attention by saying, hey, if you don't do this, here's what's going to happen. Winter is coming, guys. Are you prepared? Here's how this is going to help you get more members, even in tough times like Christmas. So you enter the conversation going through their head right now, and then you tie in your unique mechanism with a more concrete benefit. That's really the big missing piece. Because I read all your posts, and I'm like, the benefits are so vague. It just sounds like every other marketing blog online. You know, I have no reason to believe that the claim is legit.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help, my man?
That does help. That makes sense. I got a couple of really quick questions. With when you do your content, what I'm doing right now is I'm doing it on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan your content in advance and really think about how it's structured? Because I think one thing I'm doing, which is more about, you know, the application of it, is I'm just doing it when I think about it, not planning it.
Yeah, man.
And the second thing is, like, what's a good content, like a type of content that just gets a lot of engagement? Because I'm sick of doing 2 steps and no one's responding. I just want to get like more people engaged. Like what's a really like sort of a post that creates a lot of buzz, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's hit the first part. So in terms of planning out your content, yes, you always have to do it in advance and do it in batches. Because the last thing you want to do is, I have to put out organic, and you sit down and you're just doing it in a rushed way and you don't really have any creative output. So what I do is I literally take my notebook everywhere I go. And if it's not a notebook, it's the notes app on my phone. And whenever I have an idea, I just write it down. It doesn't have to be a complete post. It doesn't have to be full paragraphs and sentences. I just write down the idea so that later when I actually sit down to write, I have some fuel. So I'm not doing it from scratch. So pick like one day of the week where you feel the most fresh, whether it's, you know, Monday early in the morning or Wednesday early in the morning, or if you're a night person, just, you know, batch out an hour or two and sit down, and at least if you're not going to do full posts, do like main ideas or main themes, so that later when you sit down to do the post, you're not starting from scratch. Does that make sense?
Yep.
One thing I want to add to that too, man, because I do this, Max, I do the same exact thing. I use Asana, and I have a Asana board of just limitless ideas, right? Yeah. And then the key for me is it's got to be in the beginning of the week. I usually just do it Monday.
Yeah.
I have a day where I get in state, meaning I like nail my fucking routine. Yeah. And then the first thing I do is there's no messages, no notifications, none of that shit. I sit down 2 to 3 hours. I plan out all the posts, and then I write all the first drafts as fast as I can. Right. Yeah. I just do it like fucking, like, it's hard to say like passionately, but it's like what it is. It's just like, it's like write it out. And then from there, it's a lot easier. The day of, I'll edit it and then post it. And it has improved not just the time it takes, but the quality of the content, like, dramatically. So I would recommend you do that, Henry. Because if you're just winging it, like, you know, oh man, I got to do the organic post, or I just thought of this, so I have to post it. Yeah, it's super hard to make it good.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And then for your other question, man, so when was the last time you dropped like fucking amazing training for your market and you didn't even ask them for anything in return?
Well, I did a training this week on like.
I'm not talking about 2 steps or anything. I'm talking like, hey, this is my best shit. I want to give it to you because I want you to succeed in December before the year is out. Just like a pure gift from the soul.
Well, like, I've done the training already. Like, I did a really good training this week with our current clients. But the way that I pushed that out there was through a story. Like, if you're struggling to, the whole thing was like, if you're struggling to convert leads, like, this is a 4-step process to fix that. But I didn't do that in a post.
Yeah, dude. So like that's the big play here. So it's almost like you got to build some goodwill and give the people a lot before they start to engage with you and trust every piece of content that you put out from here on out. Because it's almost like if people are not paying attention, then let's show them how good you are so that they start paying attention. So it's not about marketing anymore. It's about, hey, here's some awesome shit and take it. I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want to serve you guys. Like, that's usually my go-to. It's like, put on some amazing training and don't even ask for anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's what I did too. Like, my first 4 or 5 trainings, I mean, I 2-stepped them into the group, but still, I mean, they were all just fucking pure value. I didn't even have anything to sell, legitimately, nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm training people to give me their attention because I'm exchanging value for attention, and I'm training them that my shit is good. Listen, you know, so that's a very important thing. And I still, like, I need to, like, next week probably drop something that's going to be a little bit more of like a pure just value, you know, tactical type of thing.
Yeah, man. Cause like a lot of it also is, cause like you can look at the people who get a lot of attention. Like, sometimes the content is not that great, but they've built so much goodwill and authority that the people pay attention either way, cause they've been trained that way, right? They're used to consuming the content and trusting the person. So if you're having a bit of a disconnect there, then just drop the mother of all. This is my best fucking training that I've ever done, and here I want to give it to you guys. And you're also saying, you know, you're having a lot of success on the paid ad side. Then have you played around with using some of those ideas in organic? Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's people also. It's the same kind of thing.
Here's the thing. When I go to write an ad that I know I'm putting budget behind, it probably takes me about an hour to map out a really good piece of copy that I know is going to work. But I just don't approach organic the same, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe I just need to change the way I'm doing my organic, because it's very on the fly.
Yeah, man.
It. Like, it can't be like, in my mind, it's like, oh, I don't want to be spending an hour writing one piece and then one person likes it. I'm just be like, get stuffed, I've put ages into this. So maybe I just got to change my mindset.
I agree, dude. So like, at least challenge yourself to do it a couple of times. It's like, okay, let's see, like treat it like a scientist. Hypothesis is, okay, if I change my mindset on organic and I do like a legit, I'll sit down for an hour and I'll put some awesome shit into it. Let's see what happens.
And the other thing is that like a lot of the copy that I'm doing for my paid ads is pain based. So it's all like the pain's very clear at the top of the copy.
Yeah.
So like if I was to do that on organic, I feel like, and I've had a couple of comments from potential prospects that I've had calls with and who said they love the content. Are people less likely to like comment and engage with the post if it's pain based because it's like vulnerable, like that's vulnerable for them to do that? Like if you're like, as an example, if you're struggling, like I know part of the copy in the paid ad is like, if you're struggling to X, Y, Z, do you think that people would be likely to engage with your post like in an organic sense when it's in that, rather than giving like a piece of like a mechanism away, like what Cole would do with the 3x5 note card type thing?
Oh no, man, it works just the same if it's not more powerful, because as soon as you describe somebody's pain to them and what they're going through right now better than they can describe it themselves, they're bought in, because it shows real expertise and authority when you understand somebody's problem so deeply. And it's not like in a douchey call out way. It's like, hey, I know what you're going through. I've been through this myself. Here's how I overcame it, and I want to help you do it. So it's more of like an empathetic leader perspective. I don't think there's anything negative about it. So it's probably more of your perception than anything. Like if you notice, like even go to Cole's, biggest post, it's always like, hey, if you're struggling with this and you've had people tell you on the phone XYZ, pay attention because I'm going to fix it for you right here in this post.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, go ahead.
In terms of like, I see what you're saying with the time invested with the organic, but have you, well, it's kind of incomplete. So whether you've been through it or not, obviously go through week 5. Once it's done, it's like halfway done right now. But what you'll see through the posting schedule there is there's only 2, what I call like maybe 1 or 2, 3 tops value drops you're going to make a week between your group and your personal, right? And those are the only ones that are going to take you a lot of time, okay, is those value drops. The rest are like engagement posts just to get engagement on your page. You can do inspirational stuff, which gets good engagement, super short, super sweet. Lifestyle stuff gets great engagement, helps build rapport, demonstrate your values, that type of stuff. So all that, like when I sit down, the planning takes me about like 20, 30 minutes of how I'm going to like incorporate all those different elements into each week. And then after that, what I'm going to spend the majority of the time doing is writing. I like to just personally do long written value posts. Like that's my style.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
I'll write the first drafts of those, maybe do an edit or 2, sleep on it. Then the day of, I just edit it. Right. So here's the thing is it's not like an hour a day, every single day to be able to make that stuff good. It might be 3 hours on Monday, then 20 minutes on each day just to edit it and release it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, dude. And also like start asking people to share and tag other people who they think this stuff is valuable for, especially if it's like an amazing value bomb training type stuff that you're posting. So start telling people, hey, if you know other gym owners who are struggling with this, tag them here. I want to spread the word and get people the most help.
That makes sense. Can I ask another question, or do you got to move on?
No, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say, I feel like with a lot of my content, I do the call out at the top of the copy, like, hey, gym owners, blah, blah, blah. This is like my feeling is that a lot of people just see that and they've become conditioned to it and will skip it. So do you think that I should try and change that up instead of trying calling people out, calling that specific type of person out? I should change it up. Because what I've been doing and what I've sort of drilled into myself is like at the top of the copy, drill out the person that you're calling out. Top of the copy, call out the person that you're putting the post to. But I feel like every time someone reads that, it's like, oh, it's another one of these posts, another one of these posts. Do you feel that's correct?
Yeah. So if that's all you're doing all the time, definitely you're going to reach a point where it's like just add fatigue, right? It's a thing where people see the same stuff over and over again and just check out. So what you want to start doing is, instead of saying, "Hey, gym owners," you could be like, "How to XYZ your gym, even if blah blah blah." So it's still the same beginning, but you're framing it differently. So you're framing it as a how to benefit, or you can kick it off with, you know, if you're going to do a story, then why you should pay attention to the story, and then boom, launch into the story, and then say, you know, this reminds me of XYZ when I worked with gym owner W. So it's still about gym owners, but it's not necessarily the first sentence where you see gym owners. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Anything else we can help you with?
With the, like, a lot of the top line of Cole's copy, his mechanisms and his, like, you know how people say, like, I've got this weird way of attracting new followers that no one's talking about. A lot of his, like, curiosity things always land. They seem to land really well. Sometimes when I try and do those unique things, like, hey, this is like, like the one-page flowchart you said is boring.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any sort of, not credentials, but sort of like a way to make sure that it's going to land well? Like, what would you do to sort of proofread, you know, the unique mechanism curiosity stuff so that it doesn't come off like weird or it doesn't make sense?
Yeah, sure, man. Have you seen the training that Cole and I did a couple weeks ago in the free group?
I watched, maybe watched like 3/4 of it.
Okay, so there's a part where we talk about unique mechanisms. So, you know, there's a bunch of them, man. You can do a minimalist mechanism. That's
But
when
what I'm saying is, how do you make sure that it's going to land? Like all of like, you know how when people try to do it, it comes off like they're too elaborate or they're trying too hard. Like all of Cole's seem very, like they land well, like it makes sense and it hits the sweet spot. What do you do to proofread it to make sure that that happens? Or is that just like, you know, doing it over and over again until you got a good sense for it?
Yeah, it's a combination of testing and seeing what actually works in today's environment. So there's nothing wrong inherently with one-page flowchart. Like, you've got the mechanism there, the minimalist mechanism. It's just the word flowchart. If you're aware of just, you know, the reality, like nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Man, I can't wait to look at this flowchart." But I would look at a 3x5 note card that shows me how I closed 10 million in the last year. Like, that is sexy. But a one-page flowchart, I'm throwing that shit in the garbage. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
The thing too is, man, you just gotta make it. Like, I always ask myself, like, do people really want this? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just like, I like to put myself in their shoes, and it's like, is this something they really like? I'm not like too much worried about the mechanism. I'm just like, what can I give them that we're like, fuck, I want that, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know, so obviously that note card was a good one. The 3-step RR process was a good one. Like, it's just a lot of times teeing that up, like the 2-step I did off Max's notes with those bullets. I mean, it's just like, I look at that and I'm like, dude, people are gonna, like, they're gonna go crazy over this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really knowing your market and having empathy and being able to tell what you want first, and that's the biggest thing, man.
Yeah. And dude, like, really quick, like, I don't know how often you talk to your market that are not your current clients, but I would just jump on the phone with people for 15 minutes and just like, "Hey man, how are things? Like, what's going on in gym world? Talk to me." You know, like, let them tell you what they want in content. That's like the easiest way.
Yeah, or listen to sales call recordings too, if you have those.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks for that.
All right, brother, you got it. All righty. Cole, you want to bring on Miles?
Miles is here, man.
Oh, sweet. Miles, what's up, bro?
What's up, man?
How are you, dude?
Doing good, brother. That was
All
awesome, by the way. You're a visitor, bro.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Okay, so you guys are launching a new course. Is that what's going on?
Basically a masterclass. Yeah, we're gonna monetize from January on. Yeah, the group.
Okay. And you're wondering essentially whether the pricing looks good and how the offer post should be?
Yeah, probably that's going to be bullets as well. So probably you're going to bring it up next week. But
Oh, yeah.
just probably probably that question is better for next week. But if you can give me some impression, that's good. If not, we can just go for next week.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. So, you know, I don't know how much goodwill you've got with your group already, whether you need to like
Really
build.
good. It's like high engagement and a lot of goodwill, a lot of value drop. We didn't do 1-2 step in there yet. We only give away value. It's
Oh,
incredible.
sweet. Okay. Yeah, dude. So what you can do is you can have like a hype up post, be like, hey, look out for, brand new thing coming out. We've been putting our heart and soul into this. We've, taken a bunch of private clients through it. And then you can have just a bunch of teaser bullets and, stay tuned for next week. And then you can, when it comes time to put the post, you can literally just go with a basic, the big announcement, what's in it for me, why now, why choose you, here's the deal, bullets, which we'll talk a lot about next week. And I think to sell a course, bullets is like the ultimate, because what you can start doing is you can have time, if it's a video, which I assume it is, you can start to have timestamps where specific segments of the video will be represented by the bullet. So you can say, minute 7, the XYZ secret to blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to want to go to minute 7 to find out what the hell that thing
So
is.
would you recommend actually a video not written? I imagine to do something written, but would you do like a video thing to advertise the masterclass?
Oh, no, I'm talking about like the actual product. If it's
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's going to be a video masterclass. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So in order to like hype up the actual purchase of the product, you would say in minute 7, you'll discover blah, blah, blah. I'll show you how that all looks like next week. But you can definitely use this basic framework. But one big point for you, man, is the pricing. I would have 3 prices. If you're going to do multiple tiered pricing, I wouldn't do 2 prices. I would do 3.
Okay.
And the way you do it is you would have one really cheap option that you're positioning it that way to be cheap and shitty so that nobody actually would want it, like on purpose. And then on the other end, the third option will be super expensive and almost like, who would buy this? But there's always a few people who would. So you would put all the bells and whistles on that one, and it'll be like super expensive. And that'll be your anchor. And then in the middle, you will have an offer that's almost as good as that last one, but not quite there. Maybe it's missing a few things, but it's like almost as good as that last most expensive one, but for a lot cheaper. And people psychologically will gravitate towards that middle option, which is even higher than just selling it for 97.
So good.
That makes sense? So have like, yeah, it's like an anchor point. Be like, here's the, if you were going to pay the full price, here's what you'll get. And it's like, holy shit, it's expensive, but it's so good. But then you'll be like, well, you can have something just as good for a whole lot less. And that'll be like your actual main price.
Oh man, that's incredible. I love it. Sounds good.
You got it, brother. And then next week, I'll hook you up with some bullet stuff, man.
Nice, man. Awesome.
Because when you're selling information, I think the best way is, have the reason why and why this is like different than any other course. And then bullets.
Love it.
Raise the curiosity.
Sweet.
Cool, bro. Anything else I can help you with?
That's good, bro.
You got it, dude. All righty. Brad, are you on?
Brad's on twice. We got 2 Brads.
Oh.
Brad squared.
I'm here. Hey.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good. All right. So I want to hear it from you first, because I took the time to read all your posts and your story. And yeah, by the way, I loved it. It's a cool story. And we'll talk about what happened with the offer. I have some notes, but I want to hear, so you're saying you got a lot of people on the phone from the posts, but that's when it kind of fizzled out?
Yeah, I just don't think I had the offer dialed in well enough at the beginning. But yeah, I got a lot of traction, and it was the right type of people for sure. They're definitely very qualified people.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I ended up closing 2 so far, and then I have a couple more in the pipe. But I just think on the calls it started to fizzle a little bit. But I was wondering if there was anything I could have done better with the copy. Because it's just like, by the time you get to the third post, which is the real hard sell,
yeah,
it was starting to fizzle out. So I think I might have gotten a dozen solid leads or so and closed 2 deals, and then maybe I'll get another 1 or 2 out of it.
Okay.
Before I launch it next time, I think I want to keep doing this. I want to make sure I'm firing on all cylinders.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were presenting the offer on the call, So when you're going through your steps, how was the response there? Were people like kind of confused? Were they excited?
Yeah, so a couple people just, one guy was like, "Oh, I see the value, but I'm not going to spend that much."
Mm-hmm.
Basic line, and then he just started being belligerent after a while. So that was one. Another lady, just it wasn't a priority because her dad is sick and she's going to follow up next month allegedly. Another guy, I had to go back and forth a few times and finally like show him one of the strategies I was going to teach him, and then he closed, and now we're working together. But I had to like go really hard in the paint to get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then another person, like I just took my time, sweet time, and like really like fleshed it out for him and followed Cole's process, which I'm still kind of mastering. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
there. But yeah, he closed pretty easily. He didn't have a lot of objections. I think, if it's the right person with the right offer, it makes a lot of sense. And then I'm about to do this as an upsell for a mastermind I'm going to hold here in San Diego. So I want to make sure I'm like at least getting some feedback on this and what I can do better.
Excellent. Cool. I don't know if you've already gotten feedback on those calls from Cole or not, but sounds like, the biggest lever for you right now is the actual call and how you're presenting this. So I don't know, Cole, if you gave him feedback on that already, but that's definitely one thing to do. And then we can talk now about, the marketing side and the copy perspective of it.
Yeah, Cole, which call did I end up sharing with you? Because I remember there was the one that I shared and then it didn't work because of the form was fucked up or something. And then
the one with it was for the wealth the wealth one.
Yeah. So that was a lead that she ended up calling for that, but she had a big mental block and I was trying to sell her a breakthrough session. She ended up flaking on me.
Yeah. So Phil gave you some good feedback on that. The biggest thing, I listened to that one actually as well, because I enjoy listening to yours, is like, dude, the offer needs to follow that like, dude, she was a good prospect, man. And if the offer would have followed, I mean, she was in on your VIP day, but it's still the 4 steps and all of the frameworks that I teach in week 2. Right. It would have been really powerful, and I think she could have definitely closed on that.
Yeah, she was in, and then I don't know, maybe she'll circle back, but she's just been ghosting me lately, which I'm surprised because we've always been very communicative. Maybe it's just she's just got shit going on. Who knows?
Yeah, I would have pushed that one a little bit harder for a deposit as well.
Yeah, that was in hindsight for sure.
Yeah. So
okay. So yeah, let's thank you, Cole. Thank you. So what about the marketing? What do you think?
So Max will dive in. One thing I want to mention too is you can submit your like Google Doc with your pitch, and I'll give you some feedback on it.
That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
There's a form in the post pinned to the top of the group, and I'll give you comments and notes. Everybody who's done that says it's been tremendously helpful.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
So we're gonna do that, my man.
Pitch to Cole. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you for that.
Cool.
And then what do you think, guys, for marketing?
Yeah, you can take it away.
Yeah, man. So, you broke up the story in 3 parts. I like that, obviously, especially when you're doing it through text. I don't know if you guys have like future plans to do like a mini VSL where all the parts come in together, but that's something to consider. Because there's no guarantee that people will essentially go back to the first post after they've missed it and read the second post, right? That's like always the risk of having it split up.
Totally.
And if you're not running, do you have an email list where you're running this story too, the sequence?
Yeah, I have an email list. I got Facebook. I got a messenger list.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've done that over email, but I would also email the sequence if you haven't.
Yeah, I think I did. I believe I did.
Yeah. Sweet. So let's talk about the specifics of it. Notice like earlier in the training, we talked about even if you're going to go with the story, we have to pay off the benefit of them reading the story, right? So in part 1, before you launch into your mentor picking you up in the BMW, I would say, start with the problem. So like, it's all about raising your generational wealth from 6 figures to 8 figures. Without, tax-free and ethically, legally, all that stuff. So I would say that before you launch into, it all began when my mentor picked me up, blah, blah, blah. So now like they're already anticipating, oh shit, I didn't know you could actually raise your family's net worth from 6 figures to 8 figures using nothing but an insurance thing. and it's all legal and ethical. They're already curious about that before you even mentioned it. So I would pay off that benefit right out of the gate.
So you're saying instead of the headline or in addition to the headline?
Yeah, either headline or just like in the opening statements.
Okay.
And then another thing, there's a part where you say, zero risk. That zero risk is a very bold claim. And whenever you have a bold claim like that, the burden of proof is on you, right? So you got to so whenever you say zero risk, you immediately got to back that up. And, anecdotal evidence is not going to work. So like saying lots of people are doing this right now, that's not really enough, right? So if you say it's zero risk, and this was proven by an XYZ clients that I've worked with in the last blah, blah, blah days, or, you can demonstrate proof in a variety of ways, not just clients you've worked with, but maybe like prominent leaders in the industry who people know and trust, use this stuff. But saying just like, yeah, lots of people are doing this, especially when you say something like zero risk, like I'm already skeptical, just like naturally, knee jerk. Right?
Did I say zero risk specifically?
Yeah, I highlighted.
I'm usually pretty good about that. I used to run a hedge fund. I don't ever say that. I probably said near zero risk.
So I think we can find it, dude.
Because if I did, I want to change that like right the fuck now.
I remember because there was with zero risk.
Yeah, I should change that. Thank you.
Yeah. So like statements like that are very dangerous, right? Because like people are always like, there's no way it's zero risk. There's some risk, right?
Yeah, near zero risk. I mean, it's the closest thing you're going to get to zero risk, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's a small thing, but remember this is like.
No, that's good to point it out. Thank you. I didn't realize I had it in there.
Yeah.
You even said it's the closest thing you can get to zero risk. Right?
Oh, that's brilliant. That's the way to position.
Like, dude, that's what I would have said. 100%.
Yeah. I'll change that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here.
Do you have can you just put the link in the chat so I don't have to dig around?
Oh, for the post?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Thank you.
You got it.
It's because it was at least a few weeks ago. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so there's in that same one in part 2 as well, there's a part where you talk about how you can technically get these policies in order to eventually sell them, and it might not be 100% legal, but you're not exactly sure, right? It's something like that.
Okay.
So that to me, as somebody who's reading this and curious about it, that diminished my buyer certainty right there. Because I don't want to cross any legal lines, and especially when the person, and I know it's not directly about the offer that you're positioning here, but it's just a thing that you said is not entirely legal. I'm like, what I'm automatically thinking there is, what else could be not entirely legal that I'm not hearing here? So what you don't want them to be in high alert, skeptical mode.
Yeah, I get that. Where did I put that? That's towards the bottom?
Let's see. No, it was a little bit earlier. Here, yeah.
Those are big paragraphs too, man.
Yeah, so flipping life insurance. Yeah, obviously, like aesthetically, there's a lot to be done here. We can break this up and all that, but let's get through the content. So I was fast about all this info. Who knew there was an entire market focused solely on flipping life insurance policies of profit? Now, technically, it's against the terms of the contract. Maybe not technically legal. I'm not 100% sure. So over there, I'm like, so what's legal and what's not? You don't want the buyer in that mode where.
Yeah, so I think I could have cleaned that up. Basically, the truth of that is, within the first 2 years, if you buy with the intent to sell, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, you don't want to diminish your own certainty as the expert by saying, yeah, I'm not exactly sure if this is legal. That's not what you should be saying. What you should be saying, like, if you do this, it's illegal. But the way I do it, XYZ, that's 100% perfectly ethically legal.
Yeah. And again, this is to illustrate a story of something I'm not 100% an expert on. So I get that it lowers my credibility, but I'm not seeking to show that I have credibility here. So a lot of my strategy on social is to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
In what I don't know. And I think people appreciate that, at least the people I want to attract.
Yeah.
But I can see from your perspective, like.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there 100%. But when it comes to
if I don't know something, I'm not going to say I know something.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm not certain, I'm not going to say I'm certain. and
Yeah.
I'm not certain about that. So
Exactly. And then we just
so
don't
there's
talk
probably
about
a better way to say it, but and
Yeah.
not diminish my credibility.
Yeah, 100%, dude. One big thing as well. So when you get to the offer, which is part 3, so a lot of it, so I was reading the bullets and I'm like, okay, it's like the information and the secrets sound cool, but I never got the feeling that this is really tangible. Like the tangibility of the benefits was really lacking to me. So like it sounded like a lot of high level information and secrets, but it wasn't something I can like feel, hear, smell, touch, like concreteness and tangibility. Like almost like if you were to take me through a by the numbers breakdown of what's possible, like if I'm a middle-aged man or woman in my 40s or 50s with a family, and I invest X amount of dollars, like how is this going to work? Like what are, thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, thing 4 that we're going to do together? And what are we doing exactly and why are we doing it? And what kind of results can I expect? Right? As opposed to like a cool concept of, these are the secrets of the wealthy, but I'm still not able to imagine what that would look like for me in my regular life.
And Max, what you add to this, like, I think what I would have done here if I was Brad is future paced and contrasted. So like,
100%. Yeah.
like, look, this can go, there's kind of 2 ways this can go. I know a lot of people right now who, they've made a lot of money in their lifetime, but they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're still getting up, grinding their teeth and sticking eyeballs on the computer because they have to make a next dime to pay the bill, and they're worried about retirement and blah, blah, blah. And like really adding a lot of like visual detail around it, right? And then I also know some people who, because they laid the right foundation and they didn't build their house on a foundation of sand, they actually achieve financial freedom in their early 30s. And then they get up excited, smiling, because they get to work on what they're truly and authentically passionate about every single morning, blah, 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 right? And you can paint those 2 different pictures in contrast. And it's like, well, which one of those 2 types of people do you want? Right? So
That's great, Cole. Thank you.
yeah. And that's what, by the way, that's how I literally teach you how to handle objections, is to play identity and contrast. Which one of those types of people do you want to be? Right. So that's, that's kind of what I was thinking with that, because I know your market's biggest fear. They're making money, but they're like, I don't want to be a dancing monkey for another 25 years.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Cool.
And then last thing, man, if I know you wanted ideas on how you could essentially run this again and shake the tree a little bit. I would actually, so to me, it sounds like your market needs a little bit more education from you as to like, what this actually is, and, not exactly how it works, but, what they're doing and why they're doing it and what the future pace positive outcome looks like. So I would do an educational value-based training, whether you want to do it as a case study or not, that's up to you. But I would literally grab somebody who represents your ideal client and literally show people how you took this person from point X to point Y using all your strategies. So now it's tangible. It works on a real human being. It's not just secrets of the billionaires. It's here's a family person who is sick and tired of working hard their whole life, and they're not even, you don't know where their next big, retirement fund's going to come from. Here's what we did together. Here's what that looks like now. And they will never be a burden on their kids ever again because of what we did together. And I would even 2-step that training to get a little bit more buzz and a little bit more hype around it, because you do have good pull on your profile. So you just need people to keep commenting. So I would do it a 2-step, and I would have a call to action built in within the deliverable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good way to go. So I'm gonna start with these people because it's still beta, right? I'm still like offering this for the first time. Yeah. I didn't offer this stuff for years for a lot of reasons, legal and otherwise. Yeah. But yeah, now that I am offering it, I think it makes sense to have a couple of clients go through for a couple of months, and then when I relaunch this, I'll incorporate your feedback. I'll come back to this video as well.
100%, dude. Yeah, because like I think for you to breach that skepticism barrier, because like it's a novel concept for most people, right? So you're gonna have to prove it a lot harder, and there's gonna be a lot of education because you're dealing with societal conditioning that says this is not even possible.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think it was possible. I had to kind of talk about my own story. I didn't think any of this was possible. And even when I was running my hedge fund, I was making good money, and I thought I knew a lot about finance.
Yeah.
I didn't know the first fucking thing about this. So.
Yeah, no, dude, like your story, the layout, like I loved it. I read the whole thing. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's
Yeah, I
just-
feel like I have a knack for writing. It's just these little stupid things that I don't know about copy.
Yeah.
That like, oh, you're turning people off here. So like, this is really valuable to have somebody with a seasoned eye. Like, I don't know how we make this part of the thing going forward, Cole, but this would be awesome just to have like, you know, a breakdown, because like this could be the difference for me of $100,000
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I just made these few tweaks beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And
It's all good, man.
Now you
That's
kind of
true.
blew your wad and you don't know that
Yeah.
you don't know, and now you're going through all these sales calls and people are like on the fence.
Yeah.
It's better just to have them like ready to rock when they get on the phone.
100%, dude.
Dude,
Okay,
one
thank
thing I had too, man, is what Max is saying about like the live trainings and the like with your people, man. Like you can tell them exactly what to do, and I know for a fact they're gonna be like, well, like you can tell them exactly like you know, I don't know what it is, but life insurance, this, that. They don't know how. Like they don't
Yeah.
know how.
Yeah.
Like you know, active strategies, real estate. They don't know how, right?
Yeah.
So like you can be super direct in providing them insight and getting them through these barriers and just giving them homework. And dude, I would live trainings, I get them in a Facebook group. You can do small Facebook groups, make it super intimate, live trainings, 2-step it off your personal profile, follow up with everybody in the group. And dude, like I know people who have groups of 40 who close 20 people out of the group for like programs 10K and more.
Yeah.
So like, don't underestimate the power of like keeping it. Like I'm not trying to scale mine. I'm kind of trying to keep mine small. Even. I mean, it's just, there's a different vibe to it for sure.
Yeah, man. And for you, like education is your superpower, man. Just the more you educate them about, you know, what they're doing and why they're doing it and why this is important, you're gonna start to see people turn.
Yeah, and this is just the first shot across the bow with this, so I'm wide open to what's next. What do I do? What's the follow up? I'm gonna work these 3 clients, whatever I have now, and see where I land, and you know, from there.
Yeah.
Also,
I've got so much opportunity too. I don't want to get squirreled out on a million things either. That's my other quad.
Yep. So get that offer and the pitch too, and I'll give that a look over. And I mean, dude, I think you're on the right track with the wealth stuff, man. Because especially with the people who follow you organically, they freaking need that shit, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I want to help them, but if I can't sell them, I can't help them.
For sure.
Right? Because this stuff is like, it's counterintuitive to everything they know. I get it. It's a different mindset that they have to come from. Anyway, so yeah, guys, I really appreciate this. So how do we keep this going is my question, just to sum up.
Dude, so I have plans to give you guys ongoing copywriting help. It'll be I'll release that sometime in January, but like 100%, I am going to be doing that within the program because it is really important. I haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do it, but it'll be.
It's like worth it for me to throw Max, you know, however much, and just be like, dude, look these over before I give me like three critiques on these before I launch them, just to like idiot test them, because otherwise, like, dude, you're in an echo chamber, and you don't have any feedback.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Except, people respond or they don't. And I'm at the stage, like you said, where people do respond, but the minor tweaks could make a doubling of a difference, you know?
100%. And I mean, and I'm totally cool with you reaching out for Max for help with this too. I don't know what his rates are, offer is, or whatever, but.
Okay. Yeah, whatever you think the best way is.
I'm welcome to.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome, brother.
All right. I'm going to send you a friend request as well, or you can send one to me if you have me handy there.
Cool, man. Cole, I think that was the last person, but there was who else wanted me to look at a post before we wrap?
I think Rondre had one. Larissa was asking about feedback on her profile. So
for next week,
Rondre asked first about a post that he had way earlier on. If you want to cover him first, if we have time.
Yeah. Do we have that posted somewhere?
Rondre, do you have the post?
Guys, I actually got to run. I'm sorry. I just realized I have an appointment. I'm late too.
No worries, brother.
All right, guys. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
You got it, dude. Take care.
Rondre actually posted it in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. Rondre, what's your market and your offer real quick?
See you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach. See you, man. Rondre, are you there?
You need to unmute yourself, dog.
There you go. Hello?
Hey, man, what's up?
What's up? So my offer is LinkedIn lead generation, and my market is coaches and consultants.
Okay. Are you having a hard time controlling the lead flow within your business? Okay, so right out of the gate,
Yeah.
vague generality, right? So are you having a hard time controlling the lead flow in your business? What does that exactly mean?
Oh, you're asking me?
So let me put in here because this is one I just had an idea for. Like, dude, you want to put a finger on it. Like, you want to, it's see, hear, feel, touch, taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, are you tired waking up and looking at your calendar and having another day without
and seeing cold
a
freeze?
booked appointment?
I'm tired of seeing cold freeze all the time.
But you know what I'm saying, right? It's like you see the appointment. So
yeah.
You know,
or like, you know, the flip side of that is being more positive. It's like, you know, how would it feel to wake up every morning and you see like 10 appointments booked on autopilot for your whatever it is coaching business, just through a solid LinkedIn profile. So there's, you know, there's the positive and the negative. But notice, like, we make it more concrete with time frame and numbers and people and actual tangible stuff. I'm much more likely to read, because this is like, it's like lukewarm, right? Like my reaction is like, you know. Do you know why something you've had a hard time struggling with constantly? If you haven't already figured out the answer, is living the process using 5-year period, and that's because they failed to master one thing: lead flow generation. Or the master truly business one skill master. Okay, so here you're educating a little bit. So you know, okay, comment below. Oh, are you ready to fix your lead flow problem? Oh, this is a call to action. Okay. Yeah, dude. So, so there's remember the longer 2-step framework that we talked about earlier, the more educational one?
Yeah.
So you got some elements of it, but there's a missing piece. Like, to me, that call to action came out of nowhere. I'm like, whoa, I'm not even ready for any call to action just yet. So, you didn't really flip any. It's like you kind of flipped the belief, but you need to tell me why this is the most important thing. So growing something that fulfills you and creates an impact in the lives you help through your company. To master lead flow is to control the speed in which your company grows. Again, I can't put my finger on it, right? Like, master the speed in which my company grows. How fast? How many people? What can I look forward to? What's my future identity look like when I have this in place?
Okay.
You know? And by the way, why you? You haven't really answered that question. Why are you the ultimate authority that I can ignore everybody else and listen to you, right? Tell me a little bit about why you're the expert when it comes to this stuff. Tease a little bit of sexy results so you got some people who you're associated with, or why this is the be-all, end-all LinkedIn solution.
Okay.
Right? And here, dude, like next week, rather not tomorrow, we'll talk about, so when you want to tease up the CTA, this is like begging for some bullets where you tease the flow thing that you're creating here. So for you, go back through the opener principles that we talked about, and then once you start applying those, your beginning sentences are going to be a lot better, because you're going to start thinking, okay, what is the most tangible promise I can make here where people can actually feel it, see it, touch it, and how can I raise the urgency by explaining, you know, why is this important now, you know? So like for me, if I read this, I'm like, yeah, LinkedIn, cool. But if you tell me, hey man, if you don't jump on LinkedIn, here's what's going to happen in the next 12 months.
Okay.
So you need to educate me as to what the cost is of me ignoring LinkedIn and not using it to generate leads for my business. Or if you want to go more positive, you can play around with that and say, here's what's possible with LinkedIn for your business, as opposed to you posting on Facebook all day. Here's how many leads XYZ got, who's a coach and blah, 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 as opposed to them posting on Facebook. You can now tell the story of that person who ditched Facebook for LinkedIn, because it's so much easier and so much more powerful for their calendar.
Okay.
So notice how like all that is more tangible and concrete. Like I have a real person with a real calendar that's been booked by you using your strategies.
Okay.
As opposed to, hey, increase your lead flow with LinkedIn.
All right. Can you get like too specific with it when you dive in and make them visualize it, or no?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. And you can even, like, you know, going back to the tale of two managers, I don't know if you've seen that ad. You can literally run a post where you compare somebody who's using LinkedIn properly and somebody who's only posting on Facebook all day and hearing crickets, and you can tell they're two stories. You know, who do you want to be?
Okay, I like that idea.
Does that help, brother?
Yeah, it helps a lot. That really helps a lot. Seeing how I can improve it. The biggest thing is making them visualize and actually feel the result that they're getting within the post itself.
Yeah,
And,
man. Yeah. So like I should read your thing and be like, okay, if I do what this guy's saying, I should have, 20 people on my calendar next week just using XYZ process.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, gotcha. And that's pretty much it. I think, oh yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, so the content where you have like stay tuned for next week's live part 2, you didn't capitalize the frameworks. Is that a reason behind it or just not?
Oh no, that's just a typo, bro.
Okay.
That's a Jedi mind trick right there. Anything else I can help you with, man?
No, that's it for now. Just most of that post breakdown really helped me seeing I can improve the content. And just on like for your like eyes. So this right here, the top, that was like the headline.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see that, would you keep reading on or no?
The one you have here?
Yes.
Are you having a hard time controlling the lead flow with your business? Yeah, I wouldn't, because of the reasons that we talked about. Like I can't like, it doesn't speak to me to like my level and my specific situation. Because like this could be for a plumbing company. I don't know, like who is this for exactly? And what am I anticipating? And why should I pay attention now? Like what's in it for me? Yeah, I have a hard time. I don't know, maybe, kinda. But if you promise me, if you enter the conversation going through my head, which is, hey, my calendar's kind of empty in December. What if I had more calls than I knew what to do with during the holidays? Just because I used the simple, LinkedIn framework that I'm going to show you in a second here. But stay with me. Blah, blah, blah. And you can educate them as to why LinkedIn is so important now. Like for you need to demonstrate why people should give a shit about LinkedIn. There's so many benefits, like unheard of, because like LinkedIn is still the new dark horse, right? Like people are not really adopting it, but there's so much stuff happening in LinkedIn. You just need to educate them as to what's possible. And also what's the cost of ignoring LinkedIn and continuing doing what you're doing, just posting on Facebook all day.
Gotcha.
So it's like the untapped gold mine. Does that give you some ideas, man?
That gave me a lot of ideas on how to really move forward with it for the next post I'm going to create. Yeah,
dude. Next week, if you have more posts from here till next week, bring them. We'll talk about them too. See what you've done.
Okay.
Go. Do we want to cover Larissa real fast? That'll be our last one, then we can bounce.
Okay.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah, man. Sure.
I didn't submit this. This is just like, I guess, a general overview of my profile and what do you think? I haven't been like as consistent. And I haven't made like any like, offers or whatever. The last few ones was like a 2-step, just a Facebook Live, But any feedback that you have would be great.
Okay. Let me just pull up your profile here.
Mm-hmm. I mostly spend a little bit more time. I have a Facebook group, so I do a little bit more 2 steps in there and like start conversations to be able to book calls.
Mm-hmm.
But I know like I'm definitely not like optimizing like the content that I'm putting out, or whatever you guys have mentioned, like lifestyle posts or mission posts, like all that stuff. I really stick to like really simple things. So I'm sure there's like a ton of things that I can improve on.
Yeah. Okay. So just here, this 3 hacks thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much more we can do with this. So 3 hacks, like I've heard the word XYZ hacks a million times. I'm checked out. I don't want hacks. So you got to have a new angle, right? It can be anything other than a hack, like a 3x5 note card. It's still a note card, but it's different because now it's a 3x5 note card. So figure out a different mechanism. Like what are the 3 hacks? Talk to me about them a little bit.
think the first one was like eating more protein. One was intermittent fasting. The other one I can't remember. But it's like simple things that people can implement right now.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, you got to package these, like, you know, what if it's something they can do at home and it's easy, you know, you can call it, you know, the house trifecta or something, you know.
So to give it like a name or like a unique mechanism type.
Yeah, like let's say the other one was like it started with a T, right? So intermittent fasting, protein.
Yeah, we have the 3 T's or whatever. Yeah.
The IP or the IPT system, right? I mean, whatever. It's like it's a thing, you know.
Yeah, it's your own thing. Like, they're not gonna get it anywhere else. And then the most important thing that's more important than the naming, which, you know, you could go in all sorts of directions with that, is, you know, used to lose belly fat without starving themselves. How much, how fast, and when can I see results? You know, so if you can claim speed, I know we can't do this in ads, but this is organic and everything flies, right? So if you can say, you know, this is what my client used last week and she dropped XYZ pounds right before Christmas. So now it's more concrete, and I know how fast and I know how much weight I'm going to use with this XYZ system. So it's a more concrete benefit.
Yeah. I tried to fit everything in like this square.
Yeah.
Is there a way, maybe I guess like I could reword it in a way that I would include like some of the things that you mentioned?
Yeah, you could have that and then finish it off with a comment. Be like, check out what my client X, you know, what she experienced when she put this to work.
And put like a picture or something.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And you can even run this as like a longer 2-step. So like next week when we talk about bullets, you can write this up as like a short minimalist 2-step with bullets, where here's what you'll discover when you go through this XYZ, you know, trifecta or TRC, whatever it is, protein system. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. Comment below if you want it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Video. So you do a lot of video, huh?
I found, for whatever reason, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I just find that like live videos get a little bit more engagement and traffic, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and you know, if you know you're good on video, so if that's your natural affinity, definitely do it.
It's definitely not natural. I just find that it's like it takes 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And like you get quite a bit of eyeballs on your profile pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I'm not noticing, like, I don't know what your videos are about. It's going to be kind of hard to watch all of them right now.
I make them typically pretty short, like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. So what I want to see from you is like a longer value-based training. Which you can you can either give it away as a live video, or you can do like a 2-step. But instead of like short tidbit videos, like go deep on one topic, like go 20 minutes and blow people's minds on one topic.
And would I do a live Facebook on?
Yeah, you can do it live. You can do a 2-step where you pre-record it and say, hey, if you want the video, comment below. You know, I just recorded a video for a private client where we talked about XYZ. If you're struggling with this and you're looking to do this in the next blah, blah, blah before the new year, you're going to want to get your hands on this, because I talk about bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. Want the video? I just wrapped up the editing. Comment below. I don't know, I'm just rattling off the top of my head here, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Does that help for now?
Yeah, for sure. I saw that, I believe I saw it on Cole's profile, and he mentioned like mission posts, and it's kind of like an indirect way of not making an offer, but it's a way to get people raising their hands, so then it gives you a reason to restart a dialogue. Is that something like that you would do, or is there any other kind of post that you would recommend, just so I have like a little bit more diversity and it's not always like the same stuff that I'm doing?
Have you been through the 18 posts, the new training? It was like, I just put it on, I think yesterday.
I didn't check it out just yet. The stuff that I saw
in the waterfall, it'll give you a lot of good stuff. And I do all my post breakdowns too.
Okay, cool. Perfect. I'll check it out.
Cool. Yeah, and Larissa, next week, if you have any new stuff that comes out, bring it to the call. We'll go through it.
Cool. Thanks so much, Max.
You got it.
Cool, man. Let's wrap it up. Dude, Max, thank you so much.
You're welcome, brother.
This training, it was amazing. I mean, I'm learning this stuff too. So it was big for me. And I mean, I know this is something that like a lot of people need help with. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that everybody got a chance to attend and you're spending the time with us. So
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having me, and thanks everybody who stuck around to the end. Appreciate you guys.
for sure. And then one last thing before we hop off, I believe the next one is you got it basically same time next Thursday, day after Christmas, correct?
Yeah, and you know, if you want to change that up, let me know. We could definitely do that, depending on people's schedules. So
Okay. I'll kind of temp it, and then maybe we'll do the same time the week after.
that's fine too, man. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Cool.
Just let me know. In the meantime, I'll have that Bullets Masterclass ready and popping for you guys. I'm excited.
I'm pumped, dude. All right, man. We'll go ahead and hop off. Can you shop? Oh, there we go. I was gonna say my screen was all messed up. Cool. We'll go ahead and hop off, guys.
All right, brother. Take care. Good night, guys.